Welcome to the latest episode of the Real World Nutrition Podcast. This is episode 143 and the summer series of Debunking Nutrition Myths. This is myth number 4. You should only eat egg whites. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real World Nutrition Podcast. I am Shelley. I'm your host. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and the founder of Real World Nutrition. And as I said, this is a continuation of the special summer series where I'm addressing some common nutrition myths. And as I said, this is episode 143 and myth number 4. So just to recap real quick, myth number 1 was talking about whether or not you should avoid carbohydrates. Myth number 2 was about whether or not you need to do a detox. And myth number 3 was eating fat makes you fat or makes you have excess body fat. So let's dive into today's myths, or this one myth, I should say, that you should only eat egg whites. Now, this is a common belief that eating only egg whites is healthier than consuming the whole egg. And if you were surprised that this is a myth or this is something you're like, haven't we cleared this up? Well, 2 things here. Yes, we have cleared this up. And 2, people still cannot let this one go. I get it all the time. People asking me questions about whether eggs are healthy. So this idea is twofold, I should say, that the whole egg is unhealthy because of the cholesterol and the fat found in it, and the egg whites are low in calories, virtually no fat, actually pretty much no fat, and high in protein. So let's dive into the truth about eating whole eggs. This is a highly nutritious food, and avoiding egg yolks means missing out on many essential nutrients that are found in eggs. So yes, it is true that the egg yolks contain dietary cholesterol and that it does contain dietary fat, about 4.5 grams of fat in that egg yolk, but in the big picture, that's not a lot. But here's the other thing it also provides. Nutrients like vitamin D, which is really difficult to find naturally in foods or even in fortified foods. Vitamin B12, an essential nutrient called choline, which is a vitamin-like substance, so it's not considered a vitamin directly, but it is something that is considered essential, and antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin. See, people tend to think that only plant foods have antioxidants, and that is not entirely true. Now, these nutrients, lutein and zeaxanthin, you may be wondering where you've heard that before. Well, these are nutrients, or not just the lutein and zeaxanthin, but some of these other nutrients are crucial for eye health. But the other ones like choline and B12, crucial for brain health. But really, all of these nutrients are crucial for overall health. And studies have shown, recent studies, more long-term studies, have shown that for most people, that dietary cholesterol has really very minimal impact on our blood cholesterol levels. So years and years ago, decades ago, it was thought if food had cholesterol, it increased your cholesterol. Makes sense, but not how it works, it turns out. So this fear of cholesterol from eggs is so outdated. And the benefits of consuming whole eggs far outweigh any potential concern for a majority of the population. And if you have a healthcare professional who is telling you to avoid cholesterol or avoid eggs, get a second opinion. Because, there's something you need to worry about, but really, if somebody has an egg allergy, that is usually related to egg whites, because that's where a bunch of the protein is. So let me talk a bit more about the evidence. Research has demonstrated that whole eggs can be part of a healthy diet without significantly impacting heart disease risk. For example, a study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that egg consumption did not increase the risk of cardiovascular disease in healthy individuals. And this study was a pretty large study. It's one that you may have heard of before, called the Physicians' Health Study, which has over 20,000 people enrolled in it and is more than 20 years old. The study was published. That study has been ongoing for years. One of these long-term cohort studies, like the physician study, the nurses study, and the one that's based out of Massachusetts. I was going to say Haynes, and I'm just drawing a blank right now. Here's the other thing. The nutrients found in egg yolks. As I said, the one choline, the one that is somewhat new as it relates to a nutrient. When I say that, it is something that was not yet considered an essential nutrient when I was in undergraduate school in the late 90s. So it is considered an essential nutrient. But this nutrient, choline, when it's spelled CHOLINE, is really critical for brain function and development. And this choline is part of the production of acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter involved in memory and muscle control. So some pretty big words there, but let me tell you, your body's using it even right now. And as I said, those antioxidants, lutein and zeaxanthin, are concentrated in the yolk, and that's really important for eye health and especially reducing the risk of age-related macular degeneration. So really, I still have people who will say, again, they toss out the egg yolk, or people saying they have a dozen egg whites a day. That seems like more trouble than it's worth unless they're using a carton of egg whites. Now, there are times where egg whites are important, and that's more in a baking situation where you don't want the yolk or you have it separated for very specific conditions. You can't whip up a meringue if there's egg yolk in it, even that tiniest bit. That's going into the food chemistry side of things. That's not for a health reason. It's that stuff will not whip up if you've got that little bit of fat in there. So let's let this egg yolk thing go. We can eat the egg whites. We can eat the egg yolks. When I eat hard-cooked eggs, boy, I'm not a big fan of the egg yolk. That is a taste and texture thing and has nothing to do with any health benefits or risks. So how can we incorporate eggs into our diet? Seems pretty straightforward, but let me just remind you of a few places. Whether you're doing something like a classic scrambled egg, making an egg sandwich, I like to whip up my eggs, not whip, just scramble them with a fork, 2 eggs with a fork, put them in a pan, cook them up, and add some tomatoes, add some cheese, put it on some toast. That's my winter go-to. But you can add spinach, you can add tomatoes, you can add peppers, onions, mushrooms. You can call it an omelet. You can call it scrambled eggs. You can call it eggs over easy, whatever you want. A poached egg. Anyway, eggs are such a versatile breakfast food, or not just a breakfast food. I just say, hey, a breakfast food is anything you eat at breakfast. This could be dinner. This could be so many different things. But really just throwing it out there to add some veggies to this, and you've got a great, well-rounded snack or meal. Now, something that people tend to not think of much is, but only around Easter, with regard to hard-boiled eggs or hard-cooked eggs. I bake mine in the oven in muffin tins. I don't know, just found it easier to do it that way. And there gets a little burn mark where it rests on the muffin tin, but it's baking rather than boiling it, because I sometimes forget when I'm boiling. I forget it's on the stove. Seems kind of a weird thing. But I'll tell you, a hard-boiled egg is something that is super convenient. You can peel it, throw it in a zip-top bag, and have it as a snack on the go. You can also chop them up, add them to salads, add them to grain bowls, quinoa, or brown rice. Super easy. Egg salad. Take some of those hard-cooked eggs and make an egg salad. But here's something, a suggestion. Try using plain Greek yogurt instead of mayonnaise. Then no big deal if you prefer it with mayonnaise. It just tends to be the Greek yogurt. Add some additional protein, add some additional calcium, has fewer calories, even if you're using full-fat Greek yogurt. A bit of tanginess. You can add mustard. You can add chopped celery. Whatever you like to do with making egg salad, but using that Greek yogurt may be a simple swap for a slightly healthier choice, more protein, and a little bit less fat. And then here's another one to try is baked avocado eggs. So this is something where you can, if you're got plenty of time, not necessarily plenty of time, but this is something that it takes a little bit more time. But if you've got a decent sized avocado and you can cut it in half and remove the pit, you might want to scoop a little bit more of the avocado out and put an egg, crack a raw egg into it, and then bake it until the eggs are set. And it's kind of a different flavor of way of adding the protein and the healthy fat of the eggs with the healthy fat and fiber of the avocado. Super filling. You know, if that's more trouble than it's worth, heck, those scrambled eggs and sliced avocados go great together. Don't need to make it complicated. So having eggs into your diet, and you can, even when I worked for a heart health rehabilitation program, 1 egg a day, and this was back in the early 2000s, but the equivalent of 1 whole egg a day was just fine. So if you want to have a couple eggs a few times a week, no big deal. It really isn't going to be a major negative health benefit. And having whole eggs in your diet can help with feeling that feeling of fullness, that feeling of being satisfied, having the protein, having great sources of nutrients, and just, it's just a really nice food to have in a single package. So I want to mention, I have addressed eggs in the past, and that was in podcast 38 and podcast episode 38 and episode 39. So one was a little bit more deeper dive into the nutrients and health benefits of eggs. And then episode 39 is about the misleading labels around eggs and all the marketing about cage-free and free-range and vegetarian chickens. I did a grocery store tour this morning, and one of the labels was showing that the eggs are fed a vegetarian diet. And if you've ever been around chickens, the chickens are not vegetarians. They'll just eat anything, including bugs and worms. And then I have a couple of blogs that I will link in the show notes about these same things. So whether you want to listen or read, I will make sure all of those are linked in the show notes. So I'm not going into all the details about the various labels and that sort of thing, but here's the high level big picture. Ignore the labels. Ignore the labels. You're paying a premium price for marketing when it comes to those labels. And that's just part of what it is. So, finally, back to the myth here. The myth that you should only eat egg whites is just that, a myth. Whole eggs, as I hope you realize by now, are a nutrient-dense, nutrient-rich food with essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, and the cholesterol and fat in egg yolks are not a problem for most people. So avoiding the egg yolk means missing out on important nutrients. So enjoy your eggs. Enjoy having the whole egg and let go of this myth that you shouldn't have them. It's bad for your cholesterol. That it's high in cholesterol. It is high in cholesterol, but that is not the biggest concern. So I want to thank you for joining me once again for another episode of the Real World Nutrition Podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to follow the podcast. You can click the follow button and new episodes come out each Friday. And next week, I'll have another nutrition myth continuing on this summer series. Until then, take care and bye for now.